Summer has a way of stirring old emotions with every warm breeze. It was a tranquil evening in early July, and as golden light lingered over our quiet street, the hum of the fan replaced the usual buzz of our routines. I sat by the window, watching fireflies flicker beneath the glow of the street lamp, my mind drifting like petals on a breeze. My son, Julian, was stretching in the corner of the room, his frame moving like water, each motion echoing years of refined practice. At 19, Julian had immersed himself in bachata, a rhythm that had shaped him as deeply as it once shaped me. Watching him now brought a whisper of those days when the music carried me away too. "You still got the rhythm, Mom?" Julian teased, his voice grounding me. I laughed gently. "It's been a while, Julian. I'm not sure my feet remember how to follow." "Come on," he said, offering his hand, mischief dancing in his eyes. "It'll come back. I promise." The way he looked at me washed away my reluctance. I left my sandals by the couch and let him pull me into the open space. The wooden floor was cool underfoot as he played a soulful summer bachata track, the kind that makes your heart stir before your feet even move. "Slow and easy," he coached, guiding my hand to his shoulder while he settled at my waist. 1, 2, 3, step. As the music flowed, so did the nostalgia. Our movements brought me back to moments long buried, when the beat was all I needed to feel free. Julian's confidence grounded me, and as I followed, I could feel just how much he had become his own person. "You've still got it," he said, his smile full of pride. I gave a breathy laugh. "You're being sweet." He spun me gently, then caught me with a grace that made me pause. "Not sweet. Honest." The look in his eyes held something deeper, something I wasn't prepared for, a recognition of who I had been before motherhood, before time carved lines into my face and responsibility quieted my joy. For a second, the world stilled, and he was no longer my little boy, but a man seeing me clearly. As the music faded, he dipped me with theatrical flair, and we laughed, filling the room with something brighter than sunlight. The summer warmth outside paled in comparison to what I felt in that moment. Alive, remembered, connected. "Don't move," Julian said, voice low, already headed for the kitchen. His grin was trouble and delight all at once. "I'm making spiced sangria." "We're not finished." I stayed where I was, the fading song still fluttering in my chest. Something about the way he'd looked at me stirred emotions I hadn't felt in a long time. Admired, radiant, maybe even a little desired. "Mom," his voice called out playfully, "this calls for that red dress. You still have it, don't you?" "The red one?" I called back, heart racing. "Julian, I'm your mom, not your duet partner." "Tonight, you're both," he said, stepping into the doorway with 2 glasses of sangria, its scent teasing and bold. "Let's make this one to remember." A blush warmed my cheeks. That red dress, stored for years like a sealed memory, suddenly called to me. His words stirred a longing I didn't know I still carried. I turned and climbed the stairs, nerves fluttering in my chest. As the dress slid over my skin, something in me shifted. I brushed my hair, touched my lips with color, and saw someone in the mirror who'd been sleeping far too long. When I returned, Julian's eyes widened, then softened. "Wow," he murmured. I tried to laugh it off. "Don't get carried away." "I mean it," he said as he stepped closer, offering a glass. "You look incredible." We clinked glasses, his fingertips brushing mine, sending a ripple through me I refused to name. "To tonight," he said. "To joy, to rhythm, to us." I sipped the sangria, its warmth melting the edges of old inhibitions. The music started again, and Julian extended his hand like a performer on stage. "May I?" he asked with mock formality. I placed my hand in his. "You're hopeless." "I'm inspired," he corrected, pulling me into his rhythm as the summer night stretched out before us. "Just follow my lead, and I promise you'll shine." The music began again, the sultry rhythm of the bachata filling the warm summer air, and Julian stepped in close, his hand gently guiding mine as we fell back into the familiar steps. He moved with ease, every motion fluid, and I followed almost without thinking, his hand resting with comforting lightness against the small of my back. "You're holding back," he teased, spinning me smoothly. His eyes sparkled with amusement. "Come on, Mom. Just feel the music." I laughed, slightly breathless from the quick turns. "I'm doing my best. You're just making it look far too natural." "That's because it is," he replied with a wink. "Let it carry you. Don't think, just feel." So I did. I closed my eyes for a beat, letting my body respond to the rhythm. The heat from the sun through the windows mingled with the warmth of the dance, and suddenly, everything clicked. I wasn't keeping up anymore. I was part of the flow. "You've got it," Julian said, his smile proud as he twirled me in and out. "Honestly, I might be lagging behind you." "Oh, please," I replied with a laugh. "You're the star of this show." "Tonight," he said with playful confidence, "we're both the stars. And you're making me shine brighter." We danced through the next few songs, the space between us filled with laughter, playful nudges, and light-hearted critiques. Julian's energy was infectious. He celebrated my missteps and cheered my victories, pulling me deeper into a space where joy lived in motion. By the final track, both of us were glowing, not just from the dance, but from something richer. Julian dipped me with flair, and I grinned up at him, my heart thumping with more than just exertion. "That was incredible," I said, breathless. "No," he replied with absolute sincerity. "You were." I smiled, shaking my head. "Only because you believed I could." "Thank you, Julian. I needed this more than I knew." His hand lingered in mine as he nodded. "Anytime, Mom. The dance floor is always waiting." In that moment, everything else faded. The ticking clock, the weight of responsibility, the years that had flown by too fast. It was just us in that summer-lit room, where love and music made time irrelevant. Sunlight streamed in the next morning, bathing the room in soft gold. I stretched beneath the sheets, a gentle ache humming through my legs and shoulders, a satisfying soreness that only came from true movement. A cramp teased my calf, and I let out a chuckle. So this is what a full night of dancing feels like now. A knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. Julian appeared, carefully balancing a breakfast tray, his grin bright. "Morning, superstar," he teased, setting the tray on my lap. "Fueling you up for round 2. I raised an eyebrow, half amused, half touched. "I get room service now." "You earned it," he said with a shrug. "And besides, I've got plans for you." I paused mid-sip of coffee. "Plans?" He pulled a chair close and leaned in. "My competition is coming up. My partner's still recovering, and I need someone to train with. You're perfect." "Julian," I said, blinking at him. "I'm your mother, not a backup dancer." "You're a natural," he said seriously. "And you've already got the rhythm. I'll handle the rest. I just need someone I trust." I hesitated, touched but unsure. "I'm not sure my muscles agree with that idea." He chuckled. "We'll fix that. Stretch, warm up, maybe even a massage if you need it." "Julian," I said, swatting at him with mock outrage, though I felt the blush rising. He grinned, unapologetic.
"What?"
"I'm just being a responsible coach." I shook my head with a laugh. "Okay, fine. But you better not push me too hard." "Deal," he said, standing and gesturing toward the living room. "Finish up and meet me in the studio." Our makeshift studio was little more than open space, a wall-length mirror, and a portable speaker. But as I stepped in, barefoot and curious, it already felt like something more. Not just a place to rehearse, but a space where something beautiful had begun to take root again. "All right," he said, clapping his hands as I entered. "Massage first, take a seat." I hesitated briefly, but his encouraging smile left no room for protest. He motioned toward the stool by the window, now bathed in warm summer light. I sat, and Julian gently took my foot in his hands. His fingers moved with practiced ease, pressing into the tightness in my calf, with a blend of precision and care. "You've clearly done this before," I murmured, eyes closing as the strain melted away. "It comes with the territory," he replied lightly. "When you dance as much as I do, you either learn how to handle sore muscles or you won't last long. Trust me, I've helped plenty of dance partners over the years." As he moved up to my shoulders, his touch was firm but comforting, chasing away the stiffness from hours of movement. "Careful," I teased, tilting my head to the side. "You're setting a high standard." "Good," he said with a grin in his voice. "Maybe you'll stick around longer than you planned." His attention made me feel buoyant, my doubts floating away like dust in sunlight. "All right, but only until your real partner is ready. Then I'm officially back in retirement." "Fair enough," he said, offering his hand and helping me to my feet. "Let's pick up where we left off." The rest of the afternoon unfolded in a blur of melodies and footwork. Julian led with a mix of energy and calm, his passion for dance flowing through every gesture. He broke the routines down piece by piece, guiding me with patience and praise. "Connection," he reminded me, placing a hand at my waist as we turned. "Feel the rhythm and trust the space between us." And I did. With each step, I felt steadier. Each song pulled me in further, sweeping away the years and doubt. Julian's faith in me glowed brighter than the sunlit room. By the time we paused, I didn't want the day to end. Each shared glance, each synchronized movement, had become a thread in something that felt quietly profound. Later, the house was filled with the comforting scent of basil and summer vegetables. From my seat at the table, I watched Julian move around the kitchen with the kind of purpose that reminded me of his dancing, precise, focused, full of intent. The low hum of jazz drifted from a speaker on the counter, mingling with the clatter of dishes. "You've really gone all out," I said, watching him glance over his shoulder. "You've earned it," he answered easily. "And I've been meaning to do this for a while." He brought over our plates, roasted vegetable pasta, seasoned to perfection, and poured 2 glasses of red wine that caught the light like garnets. "To today," he said, lifting his glass. "To surprises," I added, clinking my glass with his. Each bite was a reflection of thoughtfulness. "You never stop surprising me," I said, savoring the meal. "Well," he said, leaning back, his eyes sparkling, "there's one more surprise." I gave him a look. "Julian?" "Go look," he said, motioning down the hall. I stood, a little skeptical, and padded toward the bathroom. The moment I reached the doorway, I paused. Soft candlelight flickered from within, casting golden shadows along the walls. The scent of lavender and chamomile drifted through the air, warm and soothing. Inside, the tub was filled with water and bubbles that shimmered like late evening light on a lake surface. A tray stretched across the tub, perfectly arranged with a favorite novel, a glass of wine, and a dish of dark chocolate squares. "Julian," I called softly, caught between awe and gratitude. His voice followed gently. "So, what do you think?" I turned to find him leaning in the doorway, watching me with a soft expression. "It's beautiful," I whispered, my voice catching. "I thought you might need a moment to unwind after all that dancing," he said. "You've earned this too." Touched, I nodded and stepped inside, the warmth of the room wrapping around me like a quiet embrace. I closed the door and let myself sink into the water. The bubbles kissed my skin, the steam relaxing every fiber of my body. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I allowed myself to just be, to breathe, to rest, to feel completely cared for. When I emerged, wrapped in a plush robe and feeling reborn, Julian was waiting in the living room. The lights were dimmed, and the flickering glow of candles replaced any need for fire, their warm light dancing across the walls. "Feeling better?" he asked, his voice casual, eyes filled with care. "Much," I replied, settling onto the couch with a small sigh. He leaned forward slightly, his tone shifting to something more sincere. "You've had a lot on your plate lately. I just wanted today to be something different. Just for you." "Thank you," I said softly. "You don't know how much this means." He gave a quiet nod, then tilted his head. There's one last thing, if you're up for it. I raised an eyebrow, both amused and curious. Julian, you've done more than enough. Let me help you unwind, he said gently. A real massage. You've been moving all day, and if we're going to keep practicing, you need to recover properly. I hesitated, the offer hovering in the space between comfort and doubt. But the way he spoke, easy, genuine, made it hard to say no. Okay, I said at last, smiling faintly. Just this once. He stood and gestured to the couch. Lie down. I'll grab the oil. I followed his instructions, lying face down with my arms tucked beneath my head. The summer breeze floated in through the window, mingling with the soft scent of citrus and sandalwood from a candle nearby. Julian returned moments later, and his hands were warm, his movements practiced, confident. Let me know if anything's uncomfortable, he said as he began, his voice calm and close. His fingers moved with precision over my shoulders, easing away the tension with rhythmic pressure. I let out a slow breath as the knots began to melt beneath his touch. You're really good at this, I murmured, surprised at how quickly the stress unraveled. I've had to learn, he said with a soft chuckle. You'd be amazed how often dancers have to fix themselves or each other. This stuff becomes second nature. He moved with deliberate care, his hands gliding down my arms and across my back. There was something grounding in the way he worked, as if his touch was speaking in a language older than words, of presence, of closeness, of quiet trust. You'll thank me tomorrow, he said lightly. I promise. I already do, I whispered, my voice muffled in the pillow. He laughed gently and eased into a final, sweeping motion, finishing with a touch so light it was barely there. Done, he said, his tone relaxed. I sat up slowly, stretching. You spoil me, I said with a small smile. You needed it, he replied simply, watching me. The room was still, the glow from the candles casting soft shadows as the night settled around us. In Julian's presence, I felt safe and cared for in a way I hadn't experienced in a long time. He reached for my hands then, lifting them gently and pressing soft kisses to each knuckle. His eyes met mine, calm and sincere. You're the most incredible woman I know, he said, his voice steady and low, and the look in his eyes rooted me to the moment. I blushed, trying to shake it off with a smile. You say that now, but wait until I make you do the dishes. His grin returned, boyish and playful. Fair. But first, one last surprise. Before I could reply, he disappeared down the hallway, returning with a worn book in hand. Come on, he said, nodding toward the stairs. Let me read to you. I know how much you love that before bed. I chuckled, shaking my head. Julian, you're turning this day into something out of a novel. He flashed a smile. Exactly the point. Upstairs, I changed into my pajamas and slid beneath the covers. Julian settled beside me in the chair, flipping open the book with a familiarity that made my heart swell. What are we reading? I asked as he adjusted the lamp. One of your favorites, he said, showing me the cover. It was a story I'd loved for years, about love, about loss, about second chances. Once upon a time, he began, his voice soft and rhythmic. I smiled. It's not a fairy tale. He glanced over at me. Every good story is, in its own way. His narration carried me gently into the plot, each word spoken like a note in a quiet lullaby. I let my eyes close, his voice lacing the air with warmth and peace. From time to time, he glanced at me, his tone softening whenever he noticed my breaths lengthen. You're drifting, he whispered with a smile. No, I'm listening, I mumbled, my voice heavy with sleep. He chuckled and quietly marked the page, placing the book on the nightstand. I felt the bed shift slightly as he leaned in, brushing a hand across my cheek. His thumb moved slowly, thoughtfully, like he didn't want the moment to end. Good night, he said, almost like a secret meant only for me. I heard his steps fade, then the soft click of the door. The hush of the summer night wrapped around me, and I drifted off with his voice still echoing in my heart, gentle, familiar, and full of something I wasn't quite ready to name.